Networking and Marketing Made Simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode, as I know all of you are as well. I know that the interview episodes you guys love because, we take it off of me and we put it on somebody else because, again, we need to hear these stories of what people are doing and how they're impacting people. And my guest today, Dorsey Pruder, we are in a group coaching program together, and she is just doing amazing things. She has her own company called the Conscious Co-Parenting Institute, where she helps couples, families at any stage in or around divorce really come together and work as one if there's something that obviously can be repaired or pulled back together or just really brought to the surface of how people can thrive in a co-parenting situation. And, Dorsey and I spoke before, but I really felt this would be something great to speak on because, again, we're married in life to our partners, but a lot of people are married to their businesses, and the way that we do one thing is the way that we do everything. And sometimes if things get kind of messy in our businesses, there could be equal messiness involved in our personal life as well. So without further ado, Dorsey, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you so much for having me here, Scott. I'm really excited to speak to your audience today and let our dialogue flow whatever direction it goes to help your audience build a bigger business, learn to network, or maybe even just co-parent better.
Yeah, I think all of those could be relative into what is going on in the world today. But before we dive into that stuff, my audience always loves to know, Dorsey, everyone sees what people are doing now, but there was absolutely a transitional moment that led you to where you are right now. And you've been doing this for years. You are the expert authority in this space. There is no one better. So what was that moment for you that not only you realized that you had a gift in what you do, but it was more so, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to help people?
Great questions. My early career, I was in the mortgage industry and a top producer in the mortgage industry, selling money and helping people achieve the dream of home ownership, and built a massive business there and a massive team, and networking was really important in building that business, right? And it's all about building relationships and creating healthy relationships, even in that business. And so when I retired, I started working with kids in the entertainment business, and I had gone through my own divorce and had children, and started to experience this phenomenon known as, in urban terms, parental alienation, and these disconnects that were happening with the men that I was dating and the kids that I was working with. They had all these issues, but they weren't really their issues. It was their parents. And so out of a shared desire to solve some problems in my own family, both with my parent situation and my children, and then with the kids I was working with, I discovered this pathology, and I went out on a journey of solution. And I discovered that there were a lot of experts in this family dynamic known as alienation, but nobody really had solved it. They weren't really providing resources and tools to solve this problem, which is really the core of all injustice in our society is the dysfunction in the family. And so I didn't really want to do this work at first. I was like really enjoying the entertainment stuff, and I love working with the kids, but everywhere I turned, this problem was the core of all of the issues, in business relationships and friendships and family relationships. And so I said, fine, I'll do this work, but give me something great, as well as doing this work. And So there was really a pivotal moment where, my father was diagnosed with cancer and terminal cancer, and he was only given 18 months to live. And I realized I don't have a lot of time. So I've gone to all the experts, I've read all the books, I've read all the things online, and I need to figure this out. Or my father's going to pass away and I'm not going to repair this breach in our relationship. And so my father actually stayed at my house for the one and only time he had ever stayed in my home. And we went to work. We started to figure out like how we got to where we are, all the moments of disconnect, and then how to bridge that gap, right? How to breach or how to repair the breach in our relationship once and for all. And then taking that opportunity and then teaching others. And what's really interesting, Scott, is a lot of the things that my dad and I started to work on were things that I had already implemented in building my business, the mortgage business, and building a network of people and building relationships on trust, right? And transparency and authenticity. So all of these things I was already doing in my business life, I got to move over into my personal life and these relationships that were breached. And then the same thing in my divorce, and it was very tumultuous and it was back and forth and nuts. And then it was like, well, wait a second, can't I apply this here too? Isn't there an opportunity for me to resolve these things in a healthy way that actually supports my children? And so I was able to do that and teach my children how to be in relationship with both of their parents. And now they're adults and building networks and relationships with people in their own lives. One of them is in grad school and one of them is still in undergrad. But it's interesting the conversations I'm having even with my children now about situations that they're in and how to take responsibility and how to show up in a relationship and how to grow as a human being, which obviously applies to everything.
The one big thing I hear is communication.
Yes.
And communication is everything. And I really feel that's something that often goes talked about,
Mhm.
but not really spoken about enough. So, in your opinion, whether it's business, relationship, personal, how important is open communication between individuals?
Mm. Critical. It's like one of the most critical components to creating healthy relationships in all areas of your life. And so learning how to communicate in a healthy way should be mission number one. And then not only that, but how to resolve conflict, because the truth is, you can't eliminate conflict in life. Conflict is everywhere, right? Between people, spouses have conflict, parents and children have conflict, business partners have conflict, business associates have conflict. I mean, there's conflict everywhere. And so when you learn how to actually fight fair, if you will, and how to resolve conflict in a healthy way, it allows you to move forward in relationships or end relationships in a healthy way instead of escaping, right? You can actually have healthy closure where both people feel good about moving forward versus one person spinning off the rails, right? Like, and having all these unresolved issues that never got communicated about. So communication, critical.
And I 100% agree, because if someone's not being heard, if someone's not being listened to, it it transpires into a whole other set of feelings, but also emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And those emotions create other reactions between the two individuals, and that's when we start going down this downward spiral of you know unhappy times. And it doesn't have to be that way. Not and again, I've been down this road, and listen, not every marriage works. I mean, it's
Nope.
just, and it doesn't have to be a horrendous thing. It doesn't have to be anything more than it just didn't work. But again, navigating that space when something doesn't work out is very critical. But also the same thing could be applied to business. Sometimes you need to walk away from something, just like
Mhm.
how you couldn't ignore the calling that you had for the work that you were doing, leaving the industry that you were in before. Sometimes you do have to break away.
Yeah.
So here's my next question. Looking back on your own personal experience going through divorce and co-parenting and all those things, what was the biggest lesson that you personally learned from all of that that has helped you apply that lesson to how you're now helping other people today?
I would say one of the biggest lessons I've learned is to not take anything personally, that what other people are saying about me or to me and the emotion that people have projected over onto me is not really about me. And so it's funny because growing up I've always been kind of an edgy person, and like I don't really care what people think and about me as long as I operate in integrity. And going through divorce and then working in this space and dealing with really people at their worst, right? Like parents going through complex custody issues and divorce, and they're at their worst. They're completely emotionally stable destabilized many times. And sometimes the stuff comes towards me, and really getting to the space of not really caring, right, what other people think about me, as long as I'm operating with transparency and integrity and being who I authentically am. So that was a really hard lesson in the world of business, to be like okay with who I am and my skills and my level of intuitiveness and the gifts that I actually bring to the table. There's a lot of haters. People hate me, because when you recover children from child psychological abuse and you deal with really complex custody situations, somebody's not going to be happy. It's usually the abusive parent and their cadre of negative advocates. And in the early days it was a little scary, like, who am I to do this work, and why do I feel that anybody would trust me and believe me? And I don't have a college degree. And it's so funny how the haters, that's their favorite thing to say about me. She's only a high school graduate. And it's kind of funny now, and because it's my own internal voice I had early on. And today it's like, that's all they have to say. I mean, that's it. I'm only a high school graduate. So and not only that, I have, decades of experience of building high trust relationships and conflict resolution and recovering children, and also my own personal experience in this family dynamic both ways, as a parent and as a child, and really moving through that space. And I know, if you have entrepreneurs that listen to your podcast, we all go through this thing when we launch our business and our purpose driven work, and we really step onto the illuminated path of our purpose. It's like, who am I and why would they trust me? And you know for whatever reason, we all go through something like that. And I think the greatest lesson for me was to just listen to the noise that was coming at me, what's true, what's not true, and what's my projection of my own fear that the world is giving to me loud and clear, that I can wake up to and shift the mindset around. So, it's loud, it's there. It's always there. You hear it over and over again. And then when it no longer has a charge, you've moved through it and you've processed it, and you've transformed it or transmuted it into the podium of which you get to stand on, right? And so you said it at the top of the podcast, I am the go-to person for the solution for this family dynamic of parental alienation. There are lots of experts talking about a problem, but I really solve it. And we get court ordered all over the world to resolve this family dynamic, and we resolve it quickly. And the resolution comes down to really basic conflict resolution skills and communication skills, teaching parents and children how to communicate again, and teaching children how to be in relationship with both of their parents, even when one, and in some cases that we work on, both parents have pathology. They're pathogenic, they're narcissistic and borderline, and we see that a lot. But we don't eliminate, we integrate. So we really teach people how to integrate. So for me, really reintegrating with my authenticity too, and really walking my talk, being who I am teaching others to be.
I think, imposter syndrome is something that is very real, and people struggle with it because, who am I? Who am
Yeah.
I to do this? Who am I to teach this? And I think that's natural, as you previously stated, when you are launching a new business, and
Hmm.
it's scary to put yourself out there for the world to see, because the people that know us best are the ones that judge us the worst.
True.
And again, those are the people that we want to love us the most. And we end up taking the most ammo and fire from those
Yeah.
that we think are going to be supporting us. And it's, listen, you gotta come with armor on every single day, because you don't know where those arrows are going to be fired from, but you do have to keep going through it. And that's
Yeah.
really how the whole situation is. So let me ask you this. You've had decades and decades of work with not only families, but more importantly, people.
Hmm.
And again, biologically, we're all made up a little bit differently, but what have you started to notice trend wise with human beings, that it doesn't necessarily have to relate to co-parenting or divorce, but just in general, why we do what we do? What have you been noticing more recently with the advent of social media and all of the things that are just out in the open for people to digest? What kind of personality or emotional trends have you been noticing with the people that you've been working with, or more so in general business, that needs to be spoken about more and dealt with more?
That's a great question. So I think now that the world is really open, right? Social media has made it one world, right? Instead of, while we still have countries and borders and boundaries and all those things, we are still really one big mosh pit of humanity and the human race. And I think what's really coming to the surface, and we're seeing it a lot in the media and in politics and things of that nature, is the pathology that is the core of social justice and injustice, which is, the cluster B personality disorder types, anything from histrionic all the way to, they call it antisocial now, but sociopathic, right? And then narcissists and borderlines and everything in between, right? So these personality disorder traits are, we're starting to see those a lot, both from the government all the way down to the classroom, down to the family unit. And we we haven't talked about it because people are afraid to talk about mental illness, or they're afraid to talk about, maybe not thinking properly, or their brains not being wired properly. And also, social science has really ignored this area of mental illness, if you will, saying to the population at large that, oh, you have narcissistic personality disorder, there's nothing you can do about that, they can't be cured. So there's this whole mindset, this belief system that's projected out into the world, in especially social media. If you don't agree with me, you must be a narcissist or a borderline. And it's funny because in divorce, all the men think that their wife is a crazy borderline, and all the women think their husband is a malignant narcissist. And they're not all narcissists and borderlines. And some people can have the personality traits and not have a full disorder. And so, but we see it because of the social influences that we have, and the group think, which can be good and bad, right? Group think can be great if it's putting forth a good cause to solve something. It can be terrible if it's put forth to attack somebody or attack a thing. So it's interesting, and it's the pathology, and it's like magnified right now in social media, and it's magnified, it's like bringing it all out into the open, and it's really forcing people to address something that nobody really wants to talk about. And it's also putting into the public the reality of the situation, which I know to be true, which is, it's not true that you can't heal people that have personality disorders, that their brain is wired that way forever, and too bad. They've actually discovered in brain research in the last decade or so that all of our brains are malleable, and that we can actually grow neural pathways at any age. And access empathy centers, and they're starting to do studies in prisons, and they have reduced a reduction of recidivism programs for prisoners coming out of prison. And these are all programs to help people learn skills. And in learning skills repetitively, you start to learn to show up differently. So this personality disorder, it's just a label. And at any time, anyone who has whatever label can take it off by learning skills to show up differently.
And I think that's also applicable to anything. If you want to learn something new in business, you have to learn the skills. You
Yes.
don't have to stay, because again, think about how often people put labels on themselves in business. Oh, I'm too old to learn social media, or I'm really bad at technology. And you're only bad at it if you haven't done it. And it's just, practice makes practice. Nothing happens overnight. I always use the analogy, no one goes to the gym once,
Yep.
works out, and leaves that gym looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It just doesn't work that way. It
No.
takes time and energy and effort and consistency. So
Yes.
I love all of what you said. So as we start to wind down, um, what's your best piece of advice for that person that's quietly listening to this, that is really relating to some of the things that you talked about, as far as maybe that there's some kinks in their relationship hose, and they're having issues at home. Maybe they're thinking about divorce, or maybe they are divorced, but they're having some issues with the communication style with their ex and their kids. What's your simple advice that you can give to someone?
Well, the simple advice I would give you is that, one, don't take it personally, even if it's personally directed at you. And two, find the opportunity to resolve things when the emotions aren't heated. So if you're in a heated argument with your spouse or somebody, your business partner, whatever it is, wait until you've managed your emotions so that you can think logically about the situation, and maybe weigh out separately the pros and cons of the decision that you're thinking about making, either ending a business relationship or starting a business relationship or ending a relationship in a marriage or anything like that where there's conflict. I would say give yourself some time and space to manage your emotions and weigh out your pros and cons. And then also, you can download a free resource we have if you're in a traumatic situation where you feel like there's just so much trauma and hurt and pain, and there's a lot that's gone on in the relationship, and you feel like it needs to split. We have an awesome resource. It's free. It's on our website, consciouscoparentinginstitute.com. And the resource is under the resource tab called Tame the Pain of a Breakup, Divorce, or Separation. And it applies to all relationships. And it's a very simple process. There's a video and a worksheet that you can go through to really start to resolve whatever that inner pain is that's causing this rift, so that you can make healthy choices instead of I need to escape. You can actually make a choice to either move forward or end in a healthy way.
And what I love most about you is that you're so willing to give, and I think that really comes with time, experience, and knowing that you're not afraid to give people an entry point of getting the keys to the castle of what you teach. And that's the one big thing that Nancy and I also pride ourselves on. We want to give as much as we can so we can get as much back in return. And that's exactly who you are and what you do. And that's what I really love about what you teach, is that you're willing to give people somewhere to start rather than nowhere. There's no, you don't, it's a free download. It's there, it's open. And I'm sure you have tons of cases where people have gotten your free resource, and that's all they needed to get past what they
Yeah.
needed to get past. But also maybe that was what they needed to do, get that introduction to you to do some deeper work. So I just love that you have those kind of resources out there for people. Now, I know that you just had a launch previously for one of your big programs, but why don't you just talk a little bit about that program and other ways that people can work directly with you and how they can contact you?
Great. So, for people that are looking for a career, we just launched our coach certification, first cohort for this year, and we're getting ready to launch next month the second cohort. So, for people who are interested in actually doing this work and helping families, we have a coach certification, a co parenting coach certification program where we walk you through everything you need to know to start a business, getting clear on your marketing message, helping you understand who your ideal client is in this space, and trust me, it's there's a lot of different people you can serve in the divorcing space or the co-parenting space, and we also go as far as a business in a box where we will build out the tech piece. So for those that feel technologically challenged, we have that as well, so we can build the whole thing with you. And then for those of you that may be thinking about divorce, or you're in custody battle and you're struggling with that, we're actually launching we have this program, but we're getting ready to launch in our private Facebook group a free class called How to Get Your Kids Back. So if you're experiencing an emotional cutoff from your kids, how to get your kids back. And it's going to be 5 days of just nothing but content. I'll be teaching it. We'll be bringing some of my coaches in to speak about their experience in helping families and things of that nature. So our Facebook group is the Alliance to Solve Parental Alienation. It's a very large group. We're very active in there. If you have any questions, just come in, pop in and say hi, and ask away. We're very, like I said, I'm very active, and my team, we're very active in our group.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, all of that information of how to take advantage of everything that Dorsey has will be in the show notes. So you don't have to travel far to find it. It's going to be there right for you guys to use. So Dorsey, final question before we sign off today. What does success truly mean to you?
Success means to me, that at the end of the day, that every person I spoke to, their life I touched in a positive way somehow, even if they might not know it yet. So success means to me really helping other people see their true passion and purpose in any area of their life, whether it's being a parent, in their business, or just in their life, in their spirituality. So really touching other people's lives in a way that's positive.
Impacting others so it impacts yourself at the same time. And that's truly what it's all about. So Dorsey, so much jammed into this episode, and just really grateful for the connection that you and I have made, and even more grateful that you came on to share all of your wonderful knowledge with my listeners. So thank you again for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely.
Absolutely. So everyone, again, listening, all of the ways of connecting with Dorsey will be in the show notes and the description of this episode. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.